Welcome, 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 welcome. Do something here. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Want to welcome you all. Gonna give as usual. Give it about a 5 minute. If you're watching on the replay, I want you to go ahead and scroll to the 5 minute mark. But we want to give some people some time to get up in here. It's been a minute since I've done a live, and I'm going to get back into this as we keep going. But tonight, we're talking about the 80s. The 80s. I'm going to ask you to please be respectful in your comments tonight. And yeah. But when we get to the 5 minute mark, we're going to just dive right in and talk about some things. I did 2 lives today earlier on, and then we dropped the little 10-minute mini video at 7 o'clock called the Freestyle Hip Hop Connection. And so I hope you enjoyed that. As we get some people in there. As you come on in, let me know where you're from, who you are. Of course, the floor is always open to anybody as long as you remain respectful. We're good. We're good. We're good. Just moved to a new place, so I'm trying to set up the space where we can really have a dope studio. Hit that like button as you come on in. Hit the like button. And let me know if you could see me, if you could hear me, if everything sounds copacetic. And our topic tonight is the 80s. We're talking about the 80s. Go ahead and get on your social platforms, social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, and let people know that Dr. Colon is live right now. Please go ahead and share this to your socials so people can come on in and tune in, and we can have a really, really great conversation tonight. A great conversation tonight. All right, a great conversation tonight. Am I looking all right? Is it sounding all right? I see Randy is in the building. Don't forget, as you come on in, please hit that like button. It doesn't take a lot, right? But go ahead and start sharing this on your platforms. Let everybody know that we are here, we are live, and we are ready to roll once we get to the 5-minute mark. The 5-minute mark. So I'm excited about tonight, man. I haven't done a live in a minute, and so I am excited about it. And I can't wait to see who's going to come on in, who's going to show up, who's going to chime in. And, it's going to be a great conversation tonight. Okay? A great conversation. Yeah, man, hit them hearts, hit them 100s. Hit that like button. Go ahead and please share this on your platforms, especially people that you know would benefit from listening to a teaching like this, to a podcast like this, right? What we're going to be talking about tonight, right? The 80s, the 1980s. Beat Active, what's up? Salute. Welcome, my brother. Welcome, my brother. Wait until the 5-minute mark. And if you're watching on the rewatch, please just scroll to the 5-minute mark. Xander, what's up? Hello. Welcome. We are talking about the 1980s in New York City, specifically in the Bronx. And so this is going to be a really, really dope show. And we are ready to go. Welcome. Dr. Derrick Colon here, and just want to talk to you. Peace, Talim. I see you, my brother. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for being with us tonight. Once again, it's been a minute since I have been on a live, and just life happening and moving and getting, I've really been working on the updated version of The Bronx is the Home of Hip Hop. So be on the lookout for that coming soon. Hey, first of all, let me know, am I coming through clearly? And is the screen okay? Can you see me clear? Is everything looking good? Just let me know with a thumbs up. Everything's okay. Yes, yes, yes. All right. But as I wait for somebody to say that, let me just say that, so life's been busy, but we're going to get back on track again. As I said earlier this afternoon, thank you. I'm working on that documentary. I'm working on the new book. But in the meantime, in between time, please feel free to check out the Latin Breakdown with people like Talim, DJ Talim, with people like Randy, and so many others, right? And so many others, the Latin Breakdown on the channel. And go ahead and start checking out the videos. As I said earlier, we dropped a video today at 7 o'clock tonight called The Connection, the Freestyle Hip Hop Connection. And we're going to sort of dive into that and talk a little bit about that. But what we're really going to talk about is the 1980s. But we can't talk about the 80s. And the reason why I wanted to speak to this topic tonight, there is a movement that is trying their best to erase the Latino, the New Yorican, the Caribbean presence from the origin story of hip hop culture. Let me take my time. Just listen. Chime in, but just listen. Now, they want to erase us from the creation story. Okay. From the creation. So one of the things that I notice is that they stay stuck on the creation story. In other words, the Caribbeans, Puerto Ricans were not part of the creation story. So they stay stuck in the creation story. And as I said earlier, hip hop was not created in a day, in a month, in a year. It was a continual movement of moving parts that many people played a role in. But since they want to try to erase us from the 70s, I thought about that. Obviously, they can't erase us from the 70s because when you listen to many of the pioneers who will say one consistent thing, the Puerto Ricans were there at the beginning. Now, there are many different opinions as to when the beginning was the beginning. And I'm going to use this analogy again, is the conception would probably be 1973 under Kool Herc, the conception. The birth would be 1975 under Kool Herc. The conception, the birth. The baby starts to grow up and he starts to talk in late 76, 77 under Flash and the 3 MCs, Cowboy, Melly Mel, and Kid Creole. But the baby really doesn't have an identity until the 1980s. And this identity is given to us by none other than the Amen-Ra of hip-hop culture, Africa Bambaataa. This would be 1982. While we know that the word hip-hop was used by Cowboy and by Lovebug Starsky in the 70s, and of course we know it was used by the Sugar Hill Gang, the term was used, but the culture known as hip-hop did not take on an identity. It didn't have a name until the 80s. So for what I want to talk about, since they want to try to erase us from the 70s, and we are there from the inception, we are there pre-hip-hop. We are there pre-hip-hop. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if at all you feel so led, please, please, please support the channel. What's up, big dog? I see you. Welcome to everybody in the chat. So again, I don't want to lose my train of thought. So because we are pre-hip-hop with the gang culture, with the street families, we are pre-hip-hop. We are part of families known as the Savage Nomads, the Savage Skulls, the Chingaling Nomads, the Seven Immortals, the Ghetto Brothers, the Black Spades, the Savage Seven, the Black Falcons, and numerous other cliques or street families that were there. The Mongols, right? So we're part of that. Many of those moved into the culture, moved into DJing, graffiti writing, MCing, and b-boying. Of course, we know our history when it comes to the foundational crews of the 70s. Beginning in 1975 with TBB, the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew. And then we have the CC Crew. We have the Zulu Kings. And then we have Star Child The Rock. We have the Rockwell Association. We have the Seven Deadly Sins. We have TDK. We have the Casablanca Crew. We have other crews that really didn't get known. But where I want to go is, since they want to try and erase us from the 70s, this is why they don't talk about the 80s. Because they know they cannot erase us from the 80s. So they stay away from the 80s. And you have to understand, the people that were pivotal in the 80s were foundational to the 70s. I want to say that again. The people that were pivotal in the 80s were foundational to the 70s. And so we come to the year 1979. And we have a crew called TBB, the Bronx Boys. Now, the Bronx Boys had chapters all over the Bronx. Batch in 79 decides to disband the crew, but there were certain other chapters that did not know Batch did this. So they just kept right on trucking. Hit that like button. Support the channel if you can. And so two pivotal figures pop up in 1979. One of them is Jimmy Lee, and one of them is Jimmy D. Jimmy Lee is a New Yorican, part of the Bronx Boys. Jimmy D is, I believe he's African American. I'm not sure whether he's Latino or not. I don't know. But Jimmy Lee and Jimmy D go to Batch and they want to start a new crew called Rock Steady. They want to keep the rock steady. There goes that name again, Rock. Those crews had rock in their name, and we're not going to revisit that because you already know that history. Hit that thumbs up. Hit the like button. Appreciate everybody who's in the chat tonight. Delta, what's up, man? Channel member. All my channel members, thank you so much for being a channel member. I don't want to lose my train of thought. Let me keep going. So Jimmy Lee and Jimmy D form Rock Steady. Eventually, it gets passed on to Crazy Legs. Okay, and he becomes the president of Rocksteady. Now, what's important to understand is that when we talk about the era of the 80s, we're talking about from 1980 to 1989, the era of the 80s. And so we have this crew, but we also have other crews who are products of the 70s who expand in the 80s. Crews like the Floor Masters, who would become known as the New York City Breakers. Crews like Scrambling Feet. Crews like the Dynamic Rockers. And then with these crew, we're talking the late 70s. Okay. The Incredible Breakers. And then a plethora of other crews that started to pop up that didn't even get the recognition that they well deserved. I would dare say there were some crews that were better than the New York City Breakers, better than Rocksteady, better than Scrambling Feet, better than Incredible, better than Dynamic, but they just didn't get the recognition. This is the 80s. Now, it is said that the rappers were the ones who really helped spread hip-hop's wings across the world. No, not true, not factual at all. It was not the rappers. It was, in fact, what we call the X Factor. It was the breakers. People wanted to see the breakers break. So what started to happen is that you had these events that started to pop up in the early 80s. There's one event that I believe is called Graffiti Rock, not to be confused with the TV show. If I'm not mistaken, somebody help me out in the chat. If I'm not mistaken, I think Graffiti Rock and the Kitchen Tour were two different things, but I could be wrong on that. But these are the beginnings where the elements of the culture now are coming under one roof. Graffiti writers, DJs, B-boys, and MCs. But people really wanted to go see the breakers. Thus, you have the next wave, which is Negril. Negril downtown. And the famous battle that takes place between the Rocksteady crew and the Floor Masters. Okay, this is in 1982. This is put together by a woman by the name of Cool Lady Blue. Okay, an English woman who puts this together with people like Fab Five Freddy, with people like Grand Mixer DXT, with Africa Bambaataa, with Jazzy J, Zulu, okay? So this is happening in the 80s. So once again, while they want to try to eliminate our memory from the 70s, the 80s is something they won't touch because they know they can't touch the 80s because they know if you want to say we weren't there in the 70s, which we were, but if you want to say that, you definitely can't say that about the 80s. And so we have the breakers now who are starting to set the bar. At the same time, you had the MCs like the Fantastic Romantic Five, like the Cold Crush Brothers, like the Treacherous Three, who were doing their thing in places like Harlem World. Okay, but it was still the breakers, the B-boys that people wanted to go see. It was exposing the downtown crowd now to this movement that was labeled hip-hop culture. And I don't know if many people know this, but Africa Bambaataa used to play and DJ alongside, I believe it was the manager of the Sex Pistols. And they would go and they would be together. Malcolm McLaren's Buffalo Gap. So the 80s is starting. So we're there in the 80s. We're setting tones and trends continually in the 80s. This is the early 1980s. Okay, now we move from gang culture to cruise. And I'm talking about the Bronx. We move from gang culture to cruise. Yes, Bowman Gregg, Jesus is King. Praise the Lord. Thank you for showing up. I believe that with all my heart. We're just talking about history, my friend. I'm not glorifying the history. I'm reporting the history. So we move from the gang to the cruise now. Crews such as HBO, led by Abby of TBB, Homeboys Only. You had crews like the Mastermind Crew. Of course, you had the Zulu Nation, the Almighty Universal Zulu Nation. Of course, you had, again, a plethora of other crews that were running around the city. You had the Ball Busters. Okay, those were the crews that I was seeing. I'm going to get to my time in the 80s. So the crews now, many of these are black and brown people rocking together. Caribbeans, even white, even Indians, the 80s, the Bronx, right? This melting pot. You had the place called the Disco Fever. And so breaking becomes the X factor as to the temperature of the culture. People wanted to go see b-boy battles, breaking battles. So when people went to the Roxy, when you went to the Roxy in the 80s, there was no way you were gonna try and tell me we were not there. And we were not major players in the Roxy, that we were not participants, active participants in the culture, in the Roxy, in the Funhouse, in Danceteria, at Poe Park, at Crotona Park. These were the places that we were at. Never mind when we're talking about the 70s with people like Cool DJ JP, Charlie Chase, Apache from Lele and Apache, the Rockwell brothers, right? These are so many people. My man DJ Joey O at 28 Schoolyard and his crew. But let's get back to the 80s. The 80s now. So when we talk about the 80s and we talk about this music that would, because remember, it begins with the breakbeat anthems, right? It begins with Apache. It's just begun. Give it up, turn it loose. Yellow sunshine, huh? It begins with Babe Ruth, the Mexican. But it starts to move into a different sound in the 80s. And that sound, as I said earlier today, is begun with the electro-funk sound of Planet Rock, Planet Patrol, the Johnson Crew, Kraftwerk and Numbers. All of this is happening, and there's a sound. So when I go to 83, remember I'm there in 83. I'm from 79. I'm back and forth, not by myself. But we're not gonna get into that. But 83, the summer of 83, is you're hearing different from 83, 84, and 85, right? You're hearing a blending under the umbrella of street culture that we know as hip hop's culture. It's under the umbrella of that. Get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. It's under the umbrella of that. Okay? Now, take you to People's Park, to Poe Park. I want to paint the picture of what the Bronx was like, because Randy said this best earlier today. It's not really a discussion. If you were there, you know. But if you were not there, you really don't have a clue as to what we're talking about, the kind of energy that we're talking about in the 80s. The kind of energy that we're talking about. And so my Puerto Rocks in the chat can definitely relate. So you would, let's take it, so you would get up, it'd be a summer morning. You'd get up, you do, get your breakfast, whatever you're doing, you throw on some decent gear, and you hit the block, wherever your block was. The block that I went to hang out was Valentine Avenue, around 197th and Grand Concourse, Valentine Avenue, around Briggs, around Bainbridge, right up the street was Poe Park. And so we would go to Valentine, and there was a little porch that we would just chill out. That's where we were. And we would hang out, and this is the summer. So boxes are out, radios are out. You're just hearing the sounds of the summer. You're hearing the latest jams, whatever those jams might be. And so around 5 o'clock now I want you to hear this. This is predominantly black and brown people, Black and Puerto Ricans in large numbers. Sometimes the Puerto Ricans outnumbered the African Americans in certain neighborhoods. And on Valentine, that was the case. Okay, that was the case. The New Yorkers outnumbered, but it was all love. It didn't matter. We weren't on that time. So we go home. About 5 o'clock, we go eat. We go get our gear ready. So what's our gear? I'm talking about the 80s now. And I'm going to make this connection to the sound that we're talking about. So just bear with me. Just let me take you through the story. Hit that thumbs up and support the channel if you can. So you might throw on a burgundy nylon BVD. You're going to take out your gray permanent crease Lees. You're going to iron those. Now, they already have a permanent crease, but you're going to iron them things just to get the crease even more sharp. You're going to throw on some white on white Adidas with some fat burgundy laces. And you step out the crib. You go back to the block. When you get back to the block, everybody on the block is dressed fresh. Everybody went home and got dressed like they were going to a party. And they were. The block was the party. Then we all just start walking towards Poe Park. It's a Friday night. Radios are out. Boom boxes are everywhere. The predominant audience in Poe Park is black and brown people. Love, some fights, some stick-ups. There was a famous stick-up kid that used to walk around that area called Wilski. I remember Wilski. But this is where it was. So everybody was fresh. The Puerto Ricans were fresh. The Black Americans were fresh. The Caribbeans were fresh. Everybody was fly. Everybody was fresh. And the music was fresh. Whether that was 98.7 KISS, whether that was WBLS with Mr. Magic and Marley Marl, whether that was later on in the night, whether that was WHBI with Africa, Islam, and the Zulu beats. Now, I want to take you there. Let's go. Let's stop there. The 80s. So again, back to the 70s, 79, the first person. Again, you can't wipe us out. You want to wipe us out of the 70s. All right, you're going to put us in the late 70s. That's cool. Let's go there. The first person, according to his best friend, Fly Ty Williams, to play rap on the radio, the first person was Mr. Magic, Juan Rivas. Half black, half Puerto Rican. Juan's mother's name was Carmelita. They're from Bushwick, Brooklyn. If you know anything about Bushwick, you know the Porter Rocks were in Bushwick. Okay. And then you had, now keep in mind, Magic is known as the official voice of hip hop. So let's kill the myths. The Supreme Team was not before Magic. Africa Islam was not before Magic. Was it? I've already talked to Fly Ty many times on this, and he told me, no, I don't know who told you that. So what was Magic playing in 1979? Because there were not many rap records. He was playing the live jams, the tapes. Well, who was responsible? Well, who was one of the people responsible for these live tape recordings? We're talking about the Cold Crush, the Fantastic. Before that, it would be the Mercedes Ladies, the Furious Five, the Funky 4 plus one more. But there was one person that was responsible for Cold Crush, Fantastic, Harlem World. And his name was Tape Master Sammy. We're talking about the 80s. Africa Islam, WHBI, a Puerto Rican. Half Puerto Rican, half black. You see, did you know that Fly Ty Williams is half Cuban? Did you know that? He told me that himself. So, let's get back to the 80s. So we go back, we're in Poe Park, we're jamming, right? 83, 84, 85, you start to hear these sounds that I call the freestyle, the electro-funk freestyle hip-hop connection. Now, while I understand that songs like Shannon, Give Me Tonight, or Let the Music Play are not hip-hop records, they would be considered freestyle records. But the hip hop audience in the streets embraced those records as being under the umbrella of the culture of hip hop. This is why you had breakers who were breaking to Give Me Tonight. This is why the video that I showed you is her singing that song on the show with Michael Holman called Graffiti Rock. That's a hip hop show. This is why breakers were breaking to Let the Music Play. You see? Remember what I said? Planet Rock was not a rap record. It wasn't a rap record. It was an electro-funk record that fell under the umbrella of hip-hop, but also the influences of freestyle, electro-funk, the marriage. So we have these certain records that fall under the hip-hop audience, the street audience. You know, somebody said to me earlier that Lisa and Cult Jam were not hip-hop. I never said they were. I never said they were. So because they're not hip-hop doesn't mean that they don't fall under the umbrella. And I'm not talking about the whole library or catalog of Lisa and Cult Jam. I'm talking about a specific song, Take Me Home. That was the jam of the summer of '85. Okay, so these songs, this is the 80s. And the Porter Rocks are heavy, continually passing on the ecosystem of the culture to the next younger generation. When we went to jams, okay, again, it was black and brown. But you want to create this false notion that the 70s we were not, but the 80s we were. And then there's somebody who said, but even if you take the 80s, you still don't have it because y'all were only into freestyle music. That's a great generalization. Was everybody, every New Yorican, only into freestyle music? Nah. We were listening to freestyle joints along with Africa Islam, the Zulu beats. We would go to jams and hear DJs rocking out Planet Rock with IOU Freeze. This is why when you saw Beat Street and they got to the club that Kool Herc was running, you notice what the DJ was playing when Monty from the Roxy came to visit. He was playing a little bit of funk. He was playing some hip hop, and he was playing freestyle, IOU. These were the jams that the streets were talking about. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. I'm gonna get to the comments because there's a lot of going back and forth, and that's okay. So if we're only limited to the 80s and beyond, then we got 40 plus years in the culture. Do you know that there are people who are part of the original inception of the culture of the 70s that maybe were part of the culture for 5 years and then left it alone? And then there were many that weren't. But my whole point to this is, if you want to give us the 80s, that's why you won't talk about the 80s. And you can't come up with this idea that freestyle is our thing, Latin freestyle. No. True enough, there were certain people in hip hop that didn't listen to that. But there were many DJs that played that music along with. You know, that's why in the video at 7 o'clock, at the 7 o'clock hour, when I had Man Parrish, hip hop bebop. I had Shannon. We did that piece on the Latin Rascals, and they took Set It Off and how they would do those machine gun edits, right? We had IOU. We had In the Bottle. We had, Get Wet. We had, I'm forgetting it. It was In the Bottle. It was Get Wet. It was, what was it? It was that song. One More Shot. Lisa and Cold Jam. I Wonder If I Take You Home. And then It's Life. Right? These were songs, and there were more songs than that. I'm just scratching the surface. But these were songs. Then you start to see the videos. Again, it's the breakers that push the culture forward in the 80s. It's the breakers. It's the breakers who happen to be majority Puerto Rican. Now, that doesn't mean anything. I'm not trying to make it mean anything. I'm trying to say that if you're going to go with this erasure story of the origin points and limit us to the 80s, the majority of us that were doing it in the 80s were Puerto Ricans, were Caribbeans, were even white boys, white people. So we think about songs like, again, this ain't a hip hop song. The song I'm about to talk, this is not a hip hop song, but they used breakers in the song. Save the Overtime for Me by Gladys Knight and the Pips. Who's in the video? It's the New York City Breakers, Getting Busy. Who's in the video, right? Who's in the movies? Who? Again, we can go through this all day. So again, what I'm not saying is that we weren't there in the 70s from the beginning, because we most definitely were. But because there was such this charge to say, no. 70s are ours. You ain't got nothing to do with that. You came later, 78, 79. We'll give you the 80s. Okay, you give us the 80s and then some. 40 plus years of being part of hip hop's culture and pushing that culture forward around the world. I'm going to say something to you. It wasn't the rappers who pushed the culture forward around the world. It wasn't. It was the tours, the Wild Style tour. Sure, the rappers went, but it was the Wild Style was about the culture. It was about the culture. I want to say something before I forget. I was watching a video. There were two events that happened this summer. One of them was the Fahrenheit 75 event at St. James Park. Batch, and the Fahrenheit 75 division, which I happen to be an honorary member. Shout out to Batch, and I'm trying to remember his name, Beck, who sent me the vest and the patches. Shout out to them. But so there was that event, and at that event, what you saw the culture. You saw the culture. You saw black and brown, Asian, the culture. You saw graffiti. You saw b-boying. You saw DJing. You saw emceeing, the culture. On the same day, there was an event, and I forgot where the event was, but it was the first year anniversary, the first year that they did this, of Baron and Breakout. And they had video footage of the event. Kool Herc was there. Shyrock was shouting out the father of hip hop, Kool Herc. Grandmaster Flash was there. It was well attended. And I noticed something. I said, yo, like the majority of people, 99.9% of the people at Baron and Breakout's event are African Americans. Where's the Porter Rocks? And somebody brought this to my attention. They said, you gotta put everything in its proper context. Because Baron and Breakout were DJs for MCs. So those events are attended predominantly by African Americans because they are DJs and MCs, which are the people who founded, who created the element of the MCs. That's why. But when you go to a Crotona Park jam, you're gonna see the culture. But you might go to another jam. You might go to Mario Day, and you're gonna see predominantly African American because it is predominantly the DJs. Even at Crotona Park jams, it's really the DJs that are the center focus. Though you have Puerto Rocks, you have Asians, you have people coming from all over the world to come to Crotona Park. So it depends on what you are seeing. But the Fahrenheit events, the TBB events, these are hip hop culture events, not just DJs and MCs. While DJs and MCs are hip hop culture, it's not the whole hip hop culture. This is why that's who you see, because that was their element. This doesn't mean that there weren't African-American b-boys and African-American graffiti writers at Fahrenheit or anything. That's not the point. It was something I was thinking about, and somebody helped me make sense of that. And I said, yes, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay? So again, when you see this push, you see us. Never mind the 90s. Again, the Latin Breakdown documentary paints this picture where Babito in the underground scene, him and Stretch, it's him, it's Babito Garcia, Puerto Rican. Who's on primetime radio in the 90s? Angie Martinez. You know, the 80s, Carlos de Jesus. The 80s, Mr. Magic. The 80s, Africa Islam. So it's almost criminal to try to erase because it doesn't fit a narrative that you want it to fit. So to get rid of the 70s, but never talk about the 80s is not historically accurate. If you're going to talk about the 70s, and you got to talk about the 80s, and when you talk about the 80s, there ain't no way you're going to talk about the 80s and not include Puerto Ricans and Caribbeans and white people and Asians and Italians. It is the culture of hip hop that we are talking about. And that music that was infused. When you think of Planet Patrol, cheap thrills mean nothing if you have a broken heart. How is that hip hop? They're singing, they ain't rapping. It's the music, the beat, the 808. It's that sound. Doom, tss, doom, tss, doom, tss, doom, 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 tss, doom, doom. That's what made it. It's the 808 drum that made it hip hop. And it fell under the umbrella of the culture. It fell under the... See, I enjoy teaching about this because I want to see it from a different perspective. But again, there is no way that I'm saying that we were not there from the beginning, because we were. And we were not just fixtures watching something happen. We were active participants. Again, the light bulb was not invented in one day. It went through times of testing and trial. If I say hip hop is the merry-go-round was created in 75. But that's the merry-go-round. It's not the culture. The naming of the B-boys, right? Certain aspects were created, but not the whole culture. And I'm actually in agreement with DJ Rob Swift. Shout out to Rob Swift. Go get his book. But shout out to Rob Swift, who definitely believes that hip hop culture really is from the 80s, not the 70s. And he definitely points to the fact that it was the Ghetto Brothers and the Peace Treaty of 71 that was the conception of all the rest. And I happen to believe that as well. Shout out to my boy Microphone Prince, who's putting together a beautiful project. I'm not going to give that away. I'm going to be featuring that soon. But that's what we wanted to talk, the 80s, y'all. The 80s. It was nothing like the 80s. And whatever borough you were in, whether you were in the Bronx, whether you were in Brooklyn, whether you were in Manhattan, you saw a multicultural melting pot of Black, Puerto Rican, Caribbeans who were all rocking to the same street culture that came to be known earlier as hip-hop's culture. Man, we've been on here for a minute. Just wanted to share that. Are there any questions for me from the chat? I know y'all are going back and forth. I can see it. Please hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Please consider becoming a channel member. I just wanna let you become aware the documentary, the re-edited documentary, The Bronx, the Home of Hip Hop, is coming out fabulous. I'm not done yet. I was gonna release it, but I'm not releasing it until it is done and it is tight. And it's coming out fantastic. We're adding some new elements to that one. That's gonna be great. So that's gonna be something that I'm contemplating making available on day one for the public. And then after day one, it's going to be exclusively for my channel members only. I'm contemplating that. So please join channel membership. Are there any questions for me? There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot. Let's see who's in the building. I see you, Minnie. Minnie, let me just say this, Minnie. Let me say this to you, Minnie. I know you listening to me. Brother, it's all love. It's no separation. It's no animosity. It's none. But you have to just understand that there are people who know the culture and the history of the culture more than you do. Okay? I know you get your information from a certain group. You got to get it from everywhere. Okay, but shout out to Minnie. I see you, Minnie. You in here. I see you. When he said Chinese and Italian. Okay, yeah. Sal Abatello is Chinese. When I say Chinese, dude, I'm talking about the dudes that come from China for Fahrenheit, for TBB, the China chapters of those breaking crews. That's who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Chinese people in New York. I'm talking about the Chinese people that came from China that are keeping hip hop alive in these foreign countries. They're keeping the culture alive. All right, that's what I'm talking about. And you can't hate on the Italians. I knew plenty of Italians that was rocking with all of us. But anyway, are there any questions for me? Again, we continue to grow, we continue to learn, we continue to study, we continue to research. The book is coming out 2026 on the hip hop culture. Let me just say, it's going to be a juggernaut. That's gonna be a baby. That's gonna be a beautiful thing. But are there any questions for me? Let me look. Maybe some people asked. Let me go back. Any questions for me? JG says, Colon, did you have a high top fade with a line in the 80s? Nah, I have no high top fade. I had the moon. Yeah, I have no high top fade. I know you from the Bronx, Minnie. I understand that, but you only understand a certain aspect of the culture, bro. I understand that. The DJ and the MC. I understand. I know where you from, bro. Respect, man. Respect. Any questions for me? Sal from the Fever. Yes, Sal from the Fever. Sal from the Fever. And there were plenty of other Italians that were rocking out. Oh, much later on. Oh, okay. Much later on, Sal from the Fever. Sal from the Fever in the 70s, bro. Sal's from the Fever in the 70s. What you talking about? Okay. All right. Any questions for me? We got a good group of people in here. I see Malik Bey. Question, Colon. Puerto Ricans can't tell Black American history. What? Question, Colon. Puerto Ricans can't tell Black American history, our culture on how hip hop began for us. Well, how hip hop began for you is how hip hop began for everybody that was involved in hip hop. It's not, again, you want to paint it as Black American culture, do that, man. Do that. I ain't got nothing to say about that. You do that. Don Schweitzer, my brother. Man, Don, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you, bro. It's good to see you. We got to talk, bro. It's good to see you. Listen, you know what I love about this is that we can agree to disagree agreeably. And I hope it could stay agreeably, that we can disagree. Okay, but this is never about trying to take away somebody else's contributions or take away what they did. This is about talking about what we did. And the many times that we are, again, the erasure from the 70s is what's trying to be done. But the more people start coming out, the more that gets totally dismantled. But you definitely can't take us out the 80s. So anyway, Don, it's good to see you. I like to have a conversation with the platform. Yeah, Don, I'm open to that. Me and you have talked. I consider you my brother. I know we don't agree. But that's okay. That's okay. We can agree to disagree anyway. But good to see you, Don. It's good to see you. Okay, let me see. Anybody else got any questions? Let me see. Nas, Biggie, Jay-Z, Cool G Rap all have Italian. Nah, no, they not. Minnesota says, I was witnessing Mario Bam Starsky 8182. Okay. I want to just make sure we still good. Smash that like button, y'all. Smash that like button. Let everybody know we're here. We live. Minnesota asked me, what was the name of the famous weed spot around the corner from Pole Park, Cologne? I don't know. I don't know. We got our weed from Valentine. I don't know. I don't have to know. We got our weed from Valentine. Got our weed from right on the corner of Valentine. I don't know. Right on Valentine, right before you got to Pole Park, the Jamaicans were all right there. That's where we got our weed. But okay, whatever it is, man. I know I was in Pole Park. I know we were in the pavilion. We were there Friday and Saturday nights. It was packed. We were hanging on the concourse, right on the benches. You had different groups of people in Pole Park. You had the Webo dancers over there. You had the breakers over here. You had the electric boogaloos over here. You had the MCs over here. You had the Puerto Rican conga players over here. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's all good. I don't know. Let me see. Any other questions, man? Any other questions? Donald McCall, he says, Planet Patrol, play at your own risk. Dropped in 82, Freeze, I Owe You, the Summer of 83, the hottest song. Then Summer of 84, Nucleus, Jam on It, Wiki Wiki was the craziest. But yeah, man. Yeah. And these are the songs that we're talking about. These are the songs that we're talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, we know Dre's is. Yeah, Minnie, I know you keep talking about the Latin dances, but you talked to me. You got on you got on a platform and you said you got the who I don't know what you said. You said you got the Mercano brothers or the Morales brothers, and they're gonna straighten me out. Where they at, bro? Where they at? Let's have them. Let's have a conversation with them. Shout out to Colon. All right, let's see. Recollect said, who's trying to do all this erasing? It definitely ain't us. It ain't us. You know who it is. Why you trying to act like you don't know what we're talking about, man? You're trying to act like you don't know what we're talking about. When you got pioneers from the culture, including people like Busy B, Curtis Blow, Cool DJ Red Alert, Charlie Rock, and others who are saying, nah, the Puerto Ricans were there from the beginning. And I can tell you what they don't mean. They don't mean we were just standing there watching for 10 years and then we decided to get involved. Stop it. Stop it. The one Achilles heel that you need to deal with, if you are of the opinion that Puerto Ricans came in the late 70s into the 80s, you have to deal with the foundational B-boy crews from 75 to 79. You have to deal with that. If you're not willing to deal with that, you have to deal with the pre-hip-hop gangs. You have to deal with that. That's what you have to deal with. You have to deal with, if there was such animosity, you have to deal with the 1971 peace treaty meeting. Listen, where you see the picture of Bam Bam, the supreme warlord of the Black Spades. Mario is right behind him, and on Bam Bam's Black Spades vest is the Black Liberation flag. On his right arm is the Puerto Rican flag, and he has a swastika on the back. You have to deal with that. This is 1971. And I know he had the patch on his jacket before 71. Because Puerto Ricans were down from the beginning. Let's go. Let's go. Dolly Webbo is 81, King, and I'm not sure what you're talking about, but anyway. Malik Bey says, question, you're talking contributions and we are talking creation, Cologne. Do you know the difference? I'm talking creation too, my friend. I'm talking creation too. But again, creation does not happen in one day with one person. You understand that? Do you understand? Now, you younger than me, bro, and you from Brooklyn, so you ain't even qualified to have this conversation. But I know what you're going to say. But this is my culture. Okay, I understand that. But unless you were in the Bronx, seeing this thing unfold, which I was, you can't talk about this, bro. Just sit and learn. Stop talking about something you don't know. Learn. Were you at the jams? You just need to learn. I know you're going to, I know my culture. I get it. And I praise God that you know your culture. You should know your culture. But what I'm saying to you is that What you're talking about, creation and contribution, is all of that. Do you know how many Black American DJs did not create anything but contributed? Do you know how many Black American B-boys did not create anything but contributed? It is impossible to be there at the beginning and not create. Shout out to Quickstep for that quote. It is impossible to be there from the beginning and not create. And not create. I'm not baking a cake with one ingredient. There are different ingredients that make the cake. I'm not building a house with one foundation. It's not a house if it just has a foundation. It's not a house. And what is the foundation of hip hop's culture? The gang culture. And who was in the gang culture? Who were the predominant gangs of the Bronx and the South Bronx? The Puerto Ricans. Let's keep going. And I'm not in no way saying Puerto Ricans created hip hop. I'm saying, as I've always said, it was blacks, New Yorkers, Caribbeans. And then we get to the 80s and it's a whole nother animal. And we pushed it forward for the world to see. At least give us that credit, which you refuse to do. You might give us an honorable mention, but you refuse to say, you know what? Hip hop is around the world because of them. And we're going to give them that credit. It's because of them. Hip hop is around the world because of Legs, because of Swift, because of Frosty Freeze, because of Doze, because of Action, because of Bambaataa, because of Fab Five Freddy, because of DXT, because of Mr. Freeze. It wasn't just one group. Because of Kool Herc, it wasn't just one group. And make no mistake, Kool Herc, and nobody else is the father of the movement. He's the father. Anyway, here we go. Let me see. Yeah. Minnesota, the Mikado brothers from Monroe Project. Well, yo, man, you said you were going to bring them. You never did. You never did. Let me go all the way down. Let me see. Big Dog. Let me hear from my man, Big Dog. This is somebody that was there. This is somebody that's in the inner circle. This is somebody that's in the inner circle of people I won't even mention. He knows what he knows. This is what he says. Ricans were from the beginning. There were no floor rockers units, 74, 75, and not every black. There were no floor rockers until, that's what he meant, 74, 75, and not every black B-boy stopped being a B-boy in the 70s. Facts. Bronxdale isn't the only spot that this was going on during the 70s. Facts. So anyway, man, listen, it's been a long night. I would encourage you, next summer, go to, more than just Mario Day. Go to Crotona, go to Fahrenheit, go to TBB, go to hip hop. I want to shout out somebody. Shout out to my man Randy for pointing this out to me. I want to shout out my man Clash. My man Clash from the Boogie Down Bronx, known as the Hip Hop Warrior. This is a dude, Puerto Rican, right? Who always dresses up like the dudes from the Warriors. He has the bats, he has the big boom box and the big chains, and he paints his face. He's known as the hip hop warrior. This dude is at every event. Shout out to Clash. I pray Clash would see this. Shout out to Clash. This is somebody who has been to the jams from the 70s. This is somebody that to this day goes to Keith Cowboy's gravesite every time his birthday comes around, and he cleans his gravesite. He puts his favorite drink and his favorite snack. He plays Cowboy emceeing, and he films it and shows it to Cowboy's sister, Janice. Shout out to Janice, sis. We're with you. We know you grieving. We know this just passed. We with you. We with you, Janice. All right, but shout out to that man, Clash, who's at every one of these events. Every one of these events. Representing the culture. Representing the culture. Paul Bunyan, he says, blacks and Puerto Ricans in New York City, my days was one family. Absolutely. 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 In the 70s, we were one family. I never saw a time where that wasn't the case. And here's another thing, and I'm going to end with this. I never saw a time where Puerto Ricans and Caribbeans were not part of the fabric and the foundation of hip-hop culture. Never saw it. But yo, Minnie, love to talk with you. You know, it is what it is. Let's see. All right, y'all. Grace and peace. Minnie, let's connect. Let's connect. Hit me up. When we get off the phone, when we get off this thing, I'm going to call you. Minnie, I'm going to call you. All right? I'm going to call you. All right? Randy, what's up? Shout out to Beat Active. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to the channel members. This was a good live. We took you through some history. We took you through some things for you to think about. Now, of course, there will be those who will try to dismiss it, but we keep talking this thing through. History is about talking this thing through. All right? Grace and peace. Talk to y'all soon. One love. Support the channel. Join channel membership. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Support the channel with the likes. Super chat the channel. PayPal the channel. Every little bit helps. And share the content. Share the content. Shout out to Big Dog. Shout out to Big Dog. Grace and peace, y'all.